Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is the fourth mainline game in the Budokai Tenkaichi series, and the first mainline Budokai Tenkaichi game in 14 years. The pressure is on to live up to the expectations of fans of the cult classic original games, but there's more writing on this game than just fan expectations. Many will acknowledge that a fair share of underwhelming anime arena fighters have been released in recent years, namely by Sparking Zero publisher Bandai Namco, and it seems like this release could make or break the entire genre. Which leaves us with the question, how does Sparking Zero hold up under the pressure? Well, you did it, Bandai. You crazy son of a you did it. You released anime arena fighter that isn't just passable, but is actually pretty good. Sparking Zero has a lot to love, not just for fans of the original series, but for any Dragon Ball fan out there. But it's not perfect. So, without further ado, let's jump into Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. The most common point of contention surrounding Sparking Zero is whether or not it's a competitive game, and here's the answer. It kind of is. At its core, Sparking Zero and the previous Budokai Tenkaichi games are very clearly focused on being a Dragon Ball toy box. The large unbalanced cast of characters, the attention to details, the plethora of fan service, and the gameplay that feels like you're actually playing the anime. However, this doesn't mean that the game isn't competitively viable. There are countless mechanics at play that offer a ton of depth to the game's combat, a far cry from your typical anime arena fighter. Many point to the unbalanced characters as a means to write it off as a strictly casual game. You see, canonically powerful characters are also more powerful in-game, which contributes to that authentic Dragon Ball feel, but the game also offers a way to make these unbalanced characters somewhat fair. Budokai Tenkaichi 3 introduced a system known as Destruction Points, or DP, which finds its way into Sparking Zero as well. Every character has a DP value, you have a total number of available DP points, that being 15. The more powerful a character is, the higher their DP value. This means that you can't just fill a team with the most powerful characters, instead you're forced to ration out your available points and strategically put together a team that works well with each other. Of course, some meta is going to inevitably come out with the objectively best team, but that'll happen in any fighting game. In terms of the combat itself, it plays very nicely for the most part. I'm no Budokai Tenkaichi 3 veteran, but I have dabbled in it a bit, and Sparking Zero is noticeably quicker. Despite its many mechanics, it's still not as deep as 2D fighters like Dragon Ball FighterZ, but that's okay. It's not trying to replace fighters, it's not trying to show up at EVO. It's good to have two different types of fighting games for two different audiences. The type of audience that Sparking Zero appeals to is really just any Dragon Ball fan. There are a ton of different mechanics to learn, so if you want to take the game seriously and spend time learning moves and combos, that's available to you. But if you just want to mess around with your favorite characters and do cool special moves, then you can get by with just the basic controls. Speaking of controls, there are two available options. Classic, which mirrors previous Budokai Tenkaichi games, and Standard, which is more in line with modern day arena fighters. It's a nice touch so that newcomers to the series and veterans can both feel included. Enough wholesome talk, let's complain for a bit. The transformations and character switches just don't work well. It feels like it always takes forever for their menus to appear. Inputs in general just don't feel very good. You have to have frame perfect timing for some moves, and it feels like my blast attacks just don't work sometimes. These issues aside, the combat is very good, and all of these can probably patch in later updates. So what really matters is the gameplay at its core, which is good. It really does feel like Dragon Ball, and it's just full of the exaggerated ego of a Super Saiyan. Sparking Zero has a total roster of 181 characters, the largest for the series, topping Budokai Tenkaichi 3's 161. There are a number of new characters, mainly from Dragon Ball Super. However, despite the large roster and new additions, not every character has returned from the previous games. Some obscure fan favorites like Frieza Force Soldier have, but other characters such as OG Dragon Ball characters, Demon King Piccolo and Grandpa Gohan, have not. And when are we going to get Farmer with a shotgun? It is confirmed that we're going to get DLC characters, so there's a chance that all the veterans will return through there, but for being a ultimate Budokai Tenkaichi game, I would have preferred that all veterans make an appearance in the base game. Like I touched on before, the characters are purposefully unbalanced in order to stay true to the canon. Characters like Beerus are more powerful, whereas joke characters like Mr. Satan can barely even deal damage. These disparities help to create diversity in the roster. While the basic mechanics and controls are the same among all characters, there are still clear differences that set most characters apart from each other. Now I may have mentioned before that there are 181 characters, and by that I mean character slots, as all transformations have their own character slot. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, because each transformation does have its own moveset. What it does impact is arguably the weakest aspect of this game, that being the UI, which is pretty bad. Starting the UI with the character select screen, it just looks awful. Getting to my point about the transformations, they'll have their own slot, making the roster look crowded as the first few rows are all just Goku and Vegeta. Budokai Tenkaichi 3 already did this better by having a sub-menu for all transformations. I'm not excusing this decision, but they probably just did it this way to make the roster look larger. The character portraits also look really bad. They pulled a multiverses and used the character models themselves instead of the high quality renders that they already made for the game. I can't even play devil's advocate here because I have no clue why they would do this. Speaking of the character models, in-game, they look great. On the character select screen, they do not. Every time you swap characters, they do this animation of them appearing, some of them landing after flying, others using instant transmission, etc. It's a novel concept, except the animation for each of them always looks really clunky, like the model hasn't been rigged properly. But in-game, the models look great. Blast attacks, transformations, clashes, everything looks awesome, but more importantly, feels powerful. Flying throughout the arena, destroying everything in your path works really well here. However, there are some occasional performance issues, namely at the beginning of some matches. It's on my PC because I have good specs, but hopefully this is just an optimization issue that can be patched out at some point. The stages look really good. They strike the right balance between being stylized like the anime, but still incorporating realistic effects such as the lighting. Speaking of stages, the selection and select screen are both pretty poor. We have 12 stages, with half of them allowing slight variance, like the inclusion of a crowd in the martial arts tournament stage, or different times of day in the city stage. Each stage is very detailed and expansive, but they left out iconic stages like Kame House and Kami's Lookout. But what's even more egregious about these in particular is that they're already being modeled for the home screens, so why couldn't they just be stages? And the stage select screen also looks weird. There's a lot going on in the background, it distracts from the text. The preview of the stage on the right side of the screen looks like it's getting cut off by accident. I do, however, like how the character select screen takes place on the stage, so I can instantly transition into the battle. The UI for the home screens is cool at first, but eventually becomes annoying. Each tab is a different location entirely, and sees Goku traveling between them all. It's a fun feature, but once you've seen all of them, it just gets annoying waiting for Goku to travel each time. You can't just spam A or cross and you will select an option, but you can't see what you're selecting. On top of that, each individual option also has its own transition, which again is cool, but can get annoying waiting for each one because you can't skip them. Speaking of the menu options, let's move on to game modes. The main game mode is Episode Battle, which is the game's story mode. It does things a little differently than a typical story mode by dividing it by character. There are episodes for Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Piccolo, Future Trunks, Frieza, Goku Black, and Jiren. Playing through one of these story modes will feel weird because the story will be jumping all over the place, as will only include battles that character participated in. However, the cool thing about this is that there are options for what-if battles and alternate endings. Essentially, some battles can have unique win conditions that, if fulfilled, will branch off from the main timeline, feature either alternate endings, like what if Vegeta had defeated Cell, to entirely different battles, like what if Goku faced Raditz alone without Piccolo's help. There are some wild what-if battles here that I won't spoil, but some are great instances of fan service. The presentation these episode battles is half good, half not so good. About half of the story is presented through fully fledged cutscenes, which look great. A cool little feature of them is the ability to change camera angles to experience them through the point of view of the main character of that episode. However, some of these cutscenes are pre-rendered and look noticeably worse than the real-time rendered ones. The rest of the story is told through slideshows, which is never fun, but I can more easily excuse it in this game because of the included cutscenes and because this clearly isn't meant for newcomers to the series. I'll take half of the cutscenes as slideshows if it means we get a plethora of what-if battles and endings. My only other complaint about the story mode is the difficulty. For the most part, it's pretty passable, but some battles are wicked tough, like the Ape Vegeta fight. And before you go and comment skill issue, I ain't the only one complaining about it, alright? The CPUs do feel like they cheat a lot, like just reading your inputs, but it's definitely still possible to win, either by actually learning and taking full advantage of all the available moves, or by just cheesing sparking mode and spamming specials. The next game mode is Custom Battle, which is a really fun addition. Essentially, you can create and share battles that feature specified characters, stages, and special effects. And it goes much deeper than you'd expect, with options like once you reach a certain amount of health, this event will happen, etc. This is a great way to increase playtime by creating your own battles or playing other players' battles. Of course, you have your standard battle and your tournament, which function exactly how you would expect, same with training and battle training. In terms of other things to do, there are missions which, once complete, will award you Zeni and other rewards. Some rewards include Dragon Balls that can be used to summon Shenron, which can then be used to unlock additional rewards. Zeni can also be used to unlock capsules, characters, costumes, voices, background music strategy items, and player cards. Characters and costumes can also be unlocked by simply playing through and beating episode battles. The capsules can be equipped for special effects and boosts, but they're all pretty unnoticeable and are turned off online. Speaking of online, Aside from episode battle and custom battle, online is probably where many will spend most of their time. There are options for both ranked and unranked, unranked featuring single, team, or DP battle, and ranked only having single or DP battle. DP battle is what I touched upon before with balancing characters. From my experience, it works well to balance out the teams. The unranked mode features lobbies where you can in fact play with your friends, but only if you're on the same platform. That's right, there's no crossplay. I hope they add it in a future update, but as it stands, there's no word that it will be added. Out of the matches I played, most of them played smoothly with a couple of laggy matches here and there. You can set a minimum connection quality ranging from 1 through 5, with 5 being the best. I always set it to 4 or higher, but even some connection quality 4 matches were laggy. I was playing this during the early access period, so hopefully they'll be able to support all the players once the full game releases. Fingers crossed. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is great. It's chock full of fan service, features an expansive roster, fun gameplay, and overall feels like Dragon Ball. I'm happy to say that in 2024, an anime game has been crafted clearly for the fans of the series rather than to exploit fans of the series. Throughout its development time, developers spiked Chunsoft, listened to fan requests, and made changes accordingly, which again is just surprising for a Bandai Namco production. It's not perfect, but most of my complaints can and will hopefully be fixed in later updates, like performance issues and some janky controls. I can't believe it, but I'm going to give this game a 9 out of 10. But that brings us back to the question of will it save arena fighters? The answer is hell no. The only reason that the developers actually tried is because Bandai knows that Dragon Ball, the most popular anime in the world, will sell well. So if they give a lot of funding and development time, then their investment will surely pay off. That being said, I hope the Sparking Zero can serve not as the beginning of a new wave of anime arena fighters, but as the finale to this modern trend of anime arena fighters. And make sure to look forward to my review of the brand new anime arena fighter, Bleach Rebirth of Souls, coming early 2025.